Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, E-Invoicing, Unlocking the Benefits for Bookkeepers. It's just gone past 10 a.m, so we're good to start. Hopefully people are logging on. I can see them in the other window. Yep, we're looking good. So we might kick off. My name's Grant Chapman. I work in the advisor marketing team here at Intuit QuickBooks, and I'm your host for today's session. It's really great to have you join us today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation where I am in Sydney, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. In today's webinar, we're going to look at the benefits of e-invoicing for you, the bookkeeper, and for your small business clients, and how beyond the benefits in time savings and reduced manual processes, it can deliver really tangible results in terms of improving cash flow, as well as helping you to establish or to continue to build that value-add relationship with your clients. First, though, a little bit about us. So I'm sure everyone on the call today is aware of Intuit's flagship product, QuickBooks Online, given that it's used by more than 300,000 accountants and bookkeepers and more than 5.1 million small businesses all around the world. Some of you, though, may not be aware of the functionality in QuickBooks Online Accountant, which helps smaller accounting and bookkeeping firms to manage their clients, keep on top of their workflow, and help with their tracking of time and billing. On the compliance front, you've got QuickBooks Tax powered by Lodgit, which is an online tool to manage your BAS preparation and lodgement needs. With automated data pre-filling, with broad system integration, electronic client approvals and secure anywhere, anytime access, QuickBooks Tax really does mean less data entry and more time back. Importantly, QuickBooks integrates with a wide range of apps and other solutions to really power pretty much anything you want to do or that your clients want to do in the online space. And that includes making the move to e-invoicing through our integration with providers like Link4, who you're going to hear from today. Okay, before we get started, let me take you through some very quick housekeeping. So today's event is being recorded and we'll be providing everyone who registered with a copy by email. So watch out for an email in your inbox that will let you review any of the content shared today or to share it with other team members. If you're having any technical difficulties with not being able to see or hear the presentation, we'd suggest restarting your device, refreshing your browser, or trying a different device. There is also a troubleshooting guide located at the bottom of the page there, which contains a link to an alternate video browser. Again, you will receive a copy of the session by email, so while the recording's not quite as good as the live thing, at least you won't miss a thing. And of course, submit your questions. We're going to get to as many as we can during the Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. You can submit them using the Slido chat feature that's in at the bottom of your screen there as well. Now that the housekeeping's out of the way, let's move on to today's session. Today's session, you're going to hear from Mark Stockwell. Mark is the Director of E-Invoicing with the Australian Taxation Office. Mark is currently leading the government's E-Invoicing initiative, which is really all about delivering several $1 billion worth of productivity benefits to the Australian economy. Mark has collaborated with the New Zealand authorities to form the Trans-Tasman E-Invoicing Initiative and to adopt the international PEPAL standard to support that initiative. Excuse me. He recently returned to this role after spending 12 months managing the ATO relationship with digital service providers and leading the ATO's IT portfolio and governance operations. He was also a program manager for the government's SuperStream initiative, which delivered significant benefits to employers and superannuation funds. From our team, we have Shaye Thyer here today. Shaye is the head of accounting here at Intuit QuickBooks, where she leads our team who are responsible for supporting the success of our accounting and bookkeeping partners through cloud accounting solutions and modern practice digitalization. Shaye is an outside of any box CA with a really diverse and notably non-traditional accounting career to date in Australia. Recently, she was responsible for creating a future-fit accounting division for a large national firm, delivering a premium client experience. So it was all about using technology to optimize internal efficiencies, data to power client insights, training to transform the team, and scalable frameworks to really amplify the huge depth of expertise within that firm. She's really proud of the inroads that she was able to make in terms of shattering that traditional mid-tier accounting practice stereotype and setting the firm apart from its competitors. And we're really lucky to have Shaye here at Intuit QuickBooks and to be able to access her passion and experience. We have Robin Sands here today as well. Robin is the CEO of e-invoicing solution Link4, and Robin has more than 20 years experience providing solutions to businesses of all sizes. He combines entrepreneurial vision with strong business acumen to really support businesses with their key goals. He spent many years in global roles and has returned to Australia with a perspective to help business owners to thrive. In 2019, he was a finalist for the Australian Entrepreneur of the Year, and after more than 6 years in the industry, he's regarded as one of the leading e-invoicing experts for small businesses. So we're really glad Robin could join us today. Okay, I'll be back at the end of the session for our Q&A, but for now, I'm going to hand over to Mark. Thanks.
Thanks, Grant. Firstly, to everyone, happy e-invoicing week. It's a big week for us here at the ATO, and I'm sure for many people who are participating or are supporting the event. So thank you for your time today. Now, before my role in the conversation, we're going to some great speakers today, but my role is really position what is invoicing and why the government's gone in this direction and what this is going to do for the Australian economy. So firstly, I'm going to talk about those drivers. Excuse me, I'm just going to move this slide one. There we go. And one more, I'll move that. So I've just got my connection lost. I'll just move that slide one more forward. Thank you. Okay, before I jump in, this is about the drivers. So firstly, one of the big drivers, as the economy moves to more and more digital reporting, more and more digital ways of doing our average lifestyle events and things like that. So one of those issues with that, though, it has been about the rise of email scams. And so what I'm going to talk about firstly is what that's meant in terms of impact upon small business particularly. So yeah, ACCC always quotes some really large numbers, which are eye-watering to say the least in terms of the amount of revenue that's lost by businesses in Australia on an annual basis. Unfortunately, that is only increasing. And it looks like it's going to double again in the coming year. Now, I was at a recent presentation where the co-presenter was from a company called ID Care, which is a not-for-profit that looks after small business and how they recover from email fraud and other cyber security events. The really eye-watering part about that presentation wasn't so much how much money the Australian economy had lost in the period, but what was frightening was only about 5% of that is ever recovered by the business. So that is really the danger that businesses put themselves in by taking the risk using email as their normal or major business channel. So that was kind of a new learning for myself, but certainly a staggering statistic. The second part of why we brought invoicing into Australia was about the administrative cost of doing invoicing. So small businesses told us several years ago about the burden it put upon themselves and their business to do fairly mundane, manual, paper-based process. And as bookkeepers, you're well versed in what that is about. What we saw when we did the initial report was a finding by Deloitte Access Economics that there's about 1.2 billion invoices in the Australian economy on an annual basis. Large majority, around 90%, are processed manually. But there's a huge difference between what it costs the average business to process an invoice through a PDF or a paper-based process than that of a digital process. We're talking in the vicinity of about $20 difference when you factor in all the issues that could go wrong and on an average basis how many actually occur. So that's the processing efficiency and productivity benefits for the economy that we're trying to drive through this initiative. Lastly is the cash flow. Now, we all know that cash flow is critical to business success, and what we are seeing from e-invoicing is by removing the manual intervention and issues that go with errors, lost invoices, incorrect data, etc., that actually slows up the actual processing time. And as a consequence, we're now seeing in the early days faster processing, which means we're actually seeing then faster payments. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and what the government's doing in that space as well. Also, you need to recognise there's over $20 billion worth of unpaid invoices in the Australian economy at any one point in time. So there's a lot of money waiting to be landed in business accounts. And so the more we can do to actually drive that, obviously it's going to be better for our productivity benefits. The other point I'd make just in terms of drivers from the government perspective is when we looked at e-invoicing and how we could implement, we had a couple of options. One option was to take a compliance approach, which you'd probably traditionally expect the ATO to do, but we've taken what we call a productivity approach here. So the approach is more on a voluntary basis, and what it does is rely upon the benefits and efficiency benefits that e-invoicing provides to actually people adopt. And we're going to hear a lot about that in the coming speakers. Just move forward a slide, please. I've just lost connection here again. Just bear with me. I'll just move the slide forward, please. Okay, there we go. So firstly, one of the questions I have is about what is e-invoicing? So we always need to address up front what it is. So importantly, the first point I always say is it's not sending a PDF through an email. That's something that we've been doing now for 20, 30 years. That's a traditional way we expect business to actually deal with their trading partners when they're billing them, and that's through the email system. What this does removes that. So it's a new standardized way that we'll send and receive messages through a secure network. Now, the exchange of that information is done through the business's software solutions or systems, and it's irrespective of what system you use, whether you're using QuickBooks Online or another product, irregardless, it will flow between the different parties. And the invoice, that means, automatically comes up into your QuickBooks screen, ready to be paid. No more needing to therefore pick up a PDF, type in the information into the system before you actually then consider payment or whatever. Importantly, though, we always recommend people that but you do retain control of your payments. So whilst it might be in your system, you are still in control of when you and how you make that payment. And lastly, I just re-emphasize that point I said before, removing that email from the process of daily business also minimises that risk to redirection scams I mentioned before. Now, what makes this possible is a network. We refer to that as the PEPL network because that was the international standard that we adopted in Australia to actually help invoicing grow through our economy. So the invoicing only works though when the trading partners are both registered into that network. So how it works is very similar to what you expect with your mobile phone system, where you've got a phone, you want to text your colleague. Simply you're using maybe a Telstra or an Optus as your provider, connecting to the data network, sending the data message through there, and then your colleague will receive that text message. It doesn't agnostically of what provider they use to connect to the network, and it doesn't matter what sort of phone they're using either. So e-invoicing is no different. You're using just your computer system through your software solution to connect with your business partner. Now there's about 30 odd access points, and Robin, I think you'll touch on that later on today about the role they play in that network, sending it through safely and securely. The other point I'd make about e-invoicing, and it's going to be a fundamental shift for many businesses, is moving from that paper to that digital domain, is there will be a need to change some of your processes. I think Shaye also will talk about that very shortly. Technology is not my friend today. Could I just move the slide, please, one more time? Just one more, please. Sorry for the delay, everyone. So then why is the ATO involved? Why is the ATO involved? It's a question I get all the time, and not surprisingly, as I said before, when we looked at invoicing and delivering this through the Australian economy, we could have taken two pathways. We've taken the productivity pathway, and what that means is we needed to have an authority here in Australia to govern that data network I spoke about. And what the ATO is, that governance role, or the PEPL authority as we call it here. And what our role is to firstly promote e-invoicing throughout Australia, but also make sure that that network is robust, secure and safe for the businesses that actually will push their invoice data through that. We work closely with all of the service providers. I said, there's about 30 now accredited as to support business and government in that network. And we've been doing that over the last 2 years. Now, our legislation that we've been provided to be in this role limits us that to purely just governing. We don't actually get to see any of the invoice data or any part of who's using the system even. We're actually only seeing what the access points are doing in terms of the volumes that they're actually pushing through the network. The other point I'd make there is we're a strong advocate of the federal government for this initiative. So whilst E-Invoicing Week is one of those things we're doing, there will be further communication and campaigns happening later in the year. Now, the other point from a government perspective is what we're trying to do here is incentivise people to use e-invoicing. So one of those things we've done, if we're dealing with our own suppliers, we're actually paying in 5 days. So for example, if you're a federal government supplier and you provide us with an e-invoice, we know that the benefit we're getting from the efficiency it's giving us, we're repaying that, incentivising people and pay you in 5 days, not the normal 20 days. So it's a big incentive for people, but also it demonstrates the efficiency, but also shows to large corporates and large business that there is efficiency to be truly made from this in your own business and how we can fast track payments in the Australian economy. The last point I'd make on this point, which I have to re-emphasise, we don't see the data. There's no way, we don't have any systems, we don't have any infrastructure that actually collects the information. So we're kind of blind from that perspective. The other and last factor why the government asked us to do this role is our long-standing history with working with digital service providers, bookkeepers, tax agents when delivering large change programs. An example of that was SuperStream, Single Touch Payroll, and more recently was JobKeeper. So they're good examples where we're using those relationships and our capability to roll us out through Australia. Lastly, I just want to touch now on where we are today here in Australia on the last slide, if we can move that one. So firstly, there was a mandate for federal government agencies to be enabled for e-invoicing. So we've completed that exercise as at 1 July, just gone. So we've got all our federal government, bar one, but that should be later this month. We'll have all federal agencies on board and paying in 5 days. At the state level, we've got New South Wales government largely on board. They're also paying in 5 days. South Australia have just come into production. They've got about over 80 agencies now on board. So they're ready to go for people supplying to South Australia government. We've got then the other state agencies and territories are at different stages, but very close. They're piloting, they're testing, and they're doing some infrastructure build ready for invoicing in the coming months. So mostly states are involved. On the local level, local government and councils, we've got 3 on board already, but we know there's a whole bunch of them hopefully on board in the coming months. So we'll have a large cohort of government there ready to receive invoices from their suppliers. From a business perspective, again, fantastic news. In the large business sector, we've already got some early adopters, and these are not insignificant businesses. These are businesses like Bunnings, Woolworths, BOC Gas. These are household names that are actually seeing the benefits of e-invoicing and how they can make their supply chain more resilient and more efficient. So they're actually turning on e-invoicing to support them. I'm hoping in the next few days, you'll also see some further announcements by large corporate organisations through e-Invoicing Week about they're now ready in production and supporting their supply chain. In the small business sector, it's been fantastic. We've now got all the software that supports small business and medium business online and enabled. And what this means potentially for the Australian economy, we've got potentially about 2 million or over 2 million small businesses who could, once they're registered into that network, start about doing e-invoicing and be more efficient for themselves. So that's a fantastic position to be in. The numbers are just starting. The early adopters are kicking now. We've got about 20,000 already signed up, but we expect that now to increase dramatically as people become more aware of invoicing through things like Invoicing Week and yourself sharing with your own clients. We expect those numbers to greatly increase and therefore the efficiency dividend that actually ripples through the economy. Lastly, I'd just like to thank those people like QBA, QuickBooks Online and Link4 from Robin and all those other participants who have been involved in Invoicing Week to actually make it a success and share the word that invoicing is here, and hopefully businesses will soon be able to avail themselves of the benefits. So thank you for that. I'm going to pass over to Shaye.
And it would help if I came off mute. Thank you, Mark. Hopefully you can all hear me loud and clear now. My name is Shaye. As an FCA and in my role as Head of Accounting at Intuit QuickBooks, I've got a huge passion for the impact that we can have as accountants and bookkeepers on the lives of our small business clients in our role as trusted advisors or as the professional bookkeeper. E-Invoicing is one of my absolute favorite, I know it's a little bit geeky, but my absolute favorite enablers of some really seriously impactful outcomes for advisors and small business everywhere. And in true Shaye style, I'm incredibly impatient. I would love to see wide adoption of e-invoicing as quickly as we can. And I guess that's what today is all about. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits for us, for you, for bookkeepers, that e-invoicing presents for all of us. Awesome, my slides are working. Sorry about your tech, Mark. I'm not sure what was happening in Queensland there. Mark's given us an amazing refresher on what e-invoicing is. And before I jump in and have a look at the benefits to your bookkeeping business and your small business clients, I want to have a look at what e-invoicing isn't. Now, as you've seen, e-invoicing is not just emailing invoices. It's not a PDF of an invoice, and it's not new. As far as I understand, the technology dates back a really long way and has become standardized through ERP planning systems, you know, in the sort of around the 90s, you know, at least from the top end of town, I suppose. And luckily, it's not going away. The rapid growth in e-commerce has been accelerated by the pandemic, and the federal government is also updating public policy to reflect this. So what is e-invoicing? At the risk of rehashing everything that Mark said, and he says it so much more eloquently than I do, a direct electronic transmission of data from one party system to the other. And that data is where the real power of e-invoicing is. It is ideal for your small business clients, and many of them are already looking at it. Just last year, the government put more than $15 million behind driving e-invoicing awareness and adoption amongst business, and has been working with payment providers such as EFTPOS and Visa and MasterCard and New Payments Platform Australia to integrate e-invoicing into the main payment methods used by businesses. What it is a huge opportunity for advisors, for bookkeepers, to help our small businesses with cash flow and really transform accounting processes and cement your trusted advisor status with your small business clients to get paid on time, reduce the time that small business spends on the stuff they don't want to be doing, and ultimately open up new opportunities for growth. And I'll come to a little bit more about that in a minute. So let's quickly look at some of the stats, because I think they tell a pretty convincing story. So processing invoices manually is expensive. It just is. The ATO estimates that it costs more than $30 on average to process one paper invoice, and almost $28, so not much difference, to send an emailed PDF version. Not having to manually handle invoices means that the cost of processing, excuse me, from an e-invoice perspective, is less than $10. So there's a huge gain there. And this makes it more than 3 times more cost effective. That's quick maths, it's probably bad accounting, but I think we got there. With those, you know, there's savings being shared between both ends of the chain, so buyers and sellers, as well as accountants and bookkeepers along the way as well. And there's some research from the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman that estimates more than half of invoices are paid late, so 53%, and are 23 days overdue on average. These overdue invoices are worth 115 billion, or 52,000 for every single small business in Australia. It's pretty staggering. Now, I suspect that you've all heard about e-invoicing and the amazing benefits that we expect it to bring for our small businesses and the economy in general. Billions of dollars saved in processing and late payment costs. And yes, before you ask, it will see the demise of some of our favourite OCR-based tech, but not just yet. There'll be a number of years where e-invoicing will live in harmony side by side with our friends in the invoice and receipt capture world as business adopt the technology, and similarly as complementary apps emerge like Slip, for example, or digital receipt capture. Slip actually released some really interesting research last year with NAB, and it found that 25% of the businesses they surveyed had lost up to $10,000 by simply misplacing receipts. And a further 8% said that they'd lost more than $10,000 and up to $100,000 just from losing pesky receipts. We do expect that e-invoicing adoption, I would love to see it mandated. I don't know if that's on Mark's agenda, but I'm just saying we don't want to take a compliance approach, but maybe a gentle nudge. And look, we might see it sooner rather than later. So if I was in your shoes, if I was running a bookkeeping practice now, I would be getting in early, and I would be getting my clients in early as well to avoid the panic and the stampede of everyone, wanting to get on board with e-invoicing. You know what it's like when the government, imposes a deadline, and what it's like for our clients. Amazing as they are, they'll leave it until the last day and they'll call you at 5 p.m. and be like, oh my gosh, I need to get on this e-invoicing thing. And you're like, oh, you've had this many days, weeks and years that I've been telling you about this. So let's get in early. QuickBooks Online integrates with Link4, and I've got Robin here today, which is amazing, but also with other platforms. So it's easy as well to find the e-invoicing solution that's right for your clients with their own needs and their own way that they like to run their business. And all of them can be helped to realize these amazing benefits that you can see on the slide right now. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the benefits for your clients, and a lot of them apply to your bookkeeping business as well, to your firm, but let's specifically look at what's in it for you, the bookkeeper. So first off, I want to reiterate that it's actually an incredibly easy lift with enormous benefits for both you as the advisor and your clients as well. So already cloud-enabled clients don't need multiple systems, just one e-invoicing solution to cater for invoices to and from businesses that are either e-invoice enabled or if they're not yet. You can improve your client relationships immeasurably by getting them paid faster. They will love you if you can get them paid faster. And we can do this by enabling them with e-invoicing, boosting their cash flow, which we know is a key pain point for the vast majority of small businesses. And just think back to those thousands and thousands of dollars that are being held up or going missing entirely that we spoke about earlier. And these are big, big, big dollars for your small business clients. And this is yet another opportunity for our transactional accountants, our bookkeepers, our amazing technicians, accounting technicians, to reduce how much data entry we need to do and really lean into your superpowers as that chief financial data hygienist. All the output for every piece of work we do as advisors is 100% dependent on the quality and accuracy of financial information. And I know we all know this because this is why we're doing it, right? This is why we're in business. And this is why you guys, our bookkeepers, are just absolutely worth your absolute weight in gold. And I tell all my accounting friends this all the time, do not worry. The e-invoicing platform that you recommend to your clients can and it should integrate with a very wide range of accounting tools like QuickBooks, for example, but also into your mid-market tools and ERP. So you have that breadth across your clients. And it saves us time in practice. It removes the need to rekey or scan invoices into systems. It makes corrections or chasing missing information easy. Working to a common standard will also ensure that data is entered correctly before an invoice is sent. So let's just jump back to relationships. So this is a great way for you to advise your clients on growth. Invoicing presents small business with significant new opportunities that you can help them explore, because they can more easily supply larger organisations or more easily buy or sell across international borders, and most notably into New Zealand through the Trans-Tasman electronic invoicing arrangement, which has seen both of our countries agree to common approaches towards this important technology. Australia also has an agreement to work with Singapore on e-invoicing, and will be able to work with other countries using PEPL in the future. And finally, I just wanted to hammer home that it is really going to be immensely valued by business owners and bookkeepers to improve record keeping, track bad debtors, and to meet reporting obligation. All that boring stuff made so much easier. So how do we help everyone get started? So as Mark mentioned, e-invoicing is here now. It's not coming, it's here. It's already here. And the ATO is really ramping up their small business communications, including potential advertising campaigns, e-invoicing week. Hurrah! I was telling my girls this morning, so what are you going to do at school? I said, I don't know. What are you doing, Mum? It's e-invoicing week. And they blank stared at me, but I was excited. That's what matters. So your clients are going to hear so much more about e-invoicing, not just this week, but as time goes on. So get on the front foot. Let's not wait for our clients to ask about it. Let's help them out proactively. Let's help them understand the benefits and reframe that cost conversation into a value one, even for a micro business, to be able to not only get cloud enabled, but which we hope they all are by now, we hope so, but e-invoicing enabled as well by connecting Link 4 with QuickBooks Online. It's awesome. The benefits of getting paid faster for these businesses is massive, and dare I say, far, 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 much more than the monthly subscription fees. Let's choose an e-invoicing platform, as we've said, to recommend to your clients that not only integrates with a wide range of cloud tools, but also those mid-market tools as well. And of course, so critical is ensuring that you're actively working with your clients to get them cloud enabled. I know I said I hope we're there already, but I know we've got some stragglers. So let's help them make sure that they are modernizing and really, really not tolerating anything archaic or not in the cloud or not automated or anything like that. Clients using legacy accounting systems, clearly, we need to get on the cloud. And we want to make sure they're really good tools like QuickBooks Online that are working to support PEPL. Businesses will then need to start validating business customer ABNs and entering data into systems so that e-invoices can be sent. They should also remind clients that supply to government, those clients that do supply to government, to ask any contract managers if they are supporting e-invoicing. It looks like, from the sounds of it, what Mark was telling us, we have a nice broad range of those departments that are using e-invoicing right now. So right alongside of all the amazing carrots around cloud adoption in administrative efficiencies, automation, and more meaningful connectivity with you as their trusted advisor, of course, we have a wonderful compliance requirement in STP to add that little push, right? There's amazing capability available in the market with flexibility of adding the operational tools that clients need as well through the integration of those specialist apps. So even the smallest of small clients with, those that might just be a side hustle now or freelancing or in the gig economy, those clients, they can get on the cloud for peanuts, like really. And again, let's reframe that cost conversation around the value of getting paid faster, which is just so critical. The smaller the business is, just becomes even more and more critical. And then let's support our clients, let's train them, help them adopt this solution and help them understand how to use it. Be the trusted advisor in every sense of that title. In app advisory, let's be their software guides, be their FinOps experts, so that the modern financial practitioners, those modern financial practitioners that can help business structure their financial hygiene processes for the best efficiencies and the most meaningful information. Is software involved? Yes, of course it is, but it's the finance function that is just so critical. So what is QuickBooks doing? So apart from being incredibly excited in my kitchen about e-invoicing week this morning, we are all coming together to run a number of education sessions like this one today and produce a range of content and continuing to support our bookkeepers and our accountants and their clients to adopt e-invoicing. We've been here since the start and participated in an e-invoicing pilot facilitated by the ATO, which showed just how easy it is to start with e-invoicing. Intuit QuickBooks supports sending and receiving e-invoices by giving you, the advisor, and your clients a choice of App Store partners to connect to the Pepwell e-invoicing network. And of course, we're working with our partners like Link4, who we'll hear from in a minute, to ensure that seamless integration with QuickBooks Online, to ensure realizing the many, many benefits of e-invoicing is as simple as possible. And so that's it from me. I hope that you can see how excited I get about e-invoicing and weeding out my children. And it's not just for your clients, but because of the benefits that it can bring to your bookkeeping business as well. And that's why you'll be seeing me pop out throughout e-invoicing week at a number of different events to help let other advisors know just what a massive, massive benefit it can be for your firms. But for now, I will stop talking. Thank you so much. And I'll hand over to Robin from Link4.
Great, thank you, Shaye. That was really good, very informative. So I'm going to nail this down to like 4 simple points to know about e-invoicing, just to keep it simple and add a bit more colour to what has already been covered. So why do people need? Who is already doing it? What is the government doing? All right, so let's have a look at these 4 points now. First up, I want you to meet Aaron. So Aaron is a restaurant owner. He owns a restaurant in the city. He was invoiced by his coffee supplier and he paid that invoice because it was exactly what he ordered and what he got. But the supplier didn't see the money. Now, why is that? Well, they became victims of what is called a payment redirection scam. So that is where an email is sent with an invoice attached as a PDF and it gets intercepted, details changed, the wrong person gets paid. Payment redirection scams were the biggest scam to hit small businesses in 2020 and in 2021. And it looks like it's going to be the biggest scam again in 2022. You probably know someone who's been affected by a payment redirection scam, and maybe you have yourself. And if we're having this conversation in 12 months' time, there'll be many more of you saying, yes, we now know someone. And sadly, a lot of people think it won't happen to me. But email is not safe and anybody can be affected by these scams. So obviously the answer here is let's allow the accounting systems to talk together without using emails and PDFs. Let's just make that more secure. Now, if you ask the question about, what is an invoice, if you had to tell your, high school students or whatever, what is an invoice, how would you describe that? Now, I used to say it was a piece of paper that had information about a transaction, which is only partially right, isn't it? Because it's the information about the transaction between a supplier and a customer that is the invoice. We used to put that on a piece of paper to move it from one side to the other, or wrap it in a PDF so it goes from the supplier's system to the customer system. But why not let that information just go directly from the supplier's computer to the customer's computer, ending up exactly where it needs to be? Well, that's what e-invoicing does. And there's many cloud accounting systems that are connected. On the screen here we see QuickBooks can be send invoices from QuickBooks through to anything else like Xero, SAP, Oracle. All of these things can just work together very simply. So there's many reasons why people do e-invoicing. Protection from scams is probably the biggest one we hear about from people right now. But there's also like faster payments. And Mark was saying how the government are paying within 5 days. People say to us, do they really? Yeah, they do actually. We've seen probably on average every 2 to 3 days is how often they pay, anywhere from 1 hour right through. So invoices are being paid faster. We actually have another customer as well who found a 50% improvement in their payments through e-invoicing. They didn't change their terms. They just started using a different way to deliver the invoice. Getting paid faster means increased cash flow and many benefits that way. Additionally, storage savings. You don't need to print and save documents. You don't need to have a folder for the PDF files. They're always available. This is in the cloud. These are viewed as legal documents by the ATO, so these can be used from an audit perspective. It's more efficient, as we've spoken of, and one of the comments that bookkeepers have made to us is a pain point of going to a customer and having an invoice that is missing, that they need to do the bookkeeping work but don't have all the pieces of paper, have to then follow up with the supplier, get another one again. The invoice is always available with e-invoicing. It's on the cloud, it's there. And as well, I've listed here that cloud accounting and business systems, so many of them can do e-invoicing. It's not restricted to one type of people. So anyone that you're interacting with can do e-invoicing, which makes it simple. And on this screen, we see there's a lot of different accounting systems that are used. In Australia, there's like 600 to 800 accounting systems in use. Some of the key ones here, and there's a big QuickBooks across the top because it's covering some of the other logos that we didn't want to show on this side. But the thing is, all accounting systems out there have a way to become e-invoicing enabled. If they're cloud-based, then it's much simpler. And so that means, you know, as Mark was saying, there's like 20,000 businesses in Australia that are doing e-invoicing now because anyone can actually do it. It's not just for the big guys. The government are providing great support for e-invoicing. The mandate means the government are taking the lead. They're not just saying it, they're doing it. Business e-invoicing right. I'm not sure if you've heard of that yet, but that is something the government started researching earlier this year. And that could make Shaye happy by mandating e-invoicing for all business. We'll find out later this year. Hopefully it'll be at least mandating all levels of government and large businesses, but potentially anyone with an ABN and is registered for GST will be encouraged, even mandated, to do e-invoicing over the next 3 years. Love it if that's the case because this is so beneficial. E-invoicing week, plenty of different sessions on this week to help educate all of your customers and suppliers about what e-invoicing is. Obviously, bookkeepers become then the source of that information and people come to you and ask, what is it? Have you been doing it? Hopefully you can say yes. So why is the government supporting it so well? Well, this comment here from Prime Minister was, we could save $3 billion in Australia every year if just 15% of businesses did it. But hopefully we'll get a lot more than that and the economy can bubble along because of all the positive impacts we get from it. So how do you become e-invoicing ready? You need to pick a cloud accounting system, or sorry, rather, if you've got a cloud accounting system like QBO, it's simple. It takes 2 minutes to sign up and get connected. It's cloud-based, so all you have to do is create an account and you're ready to go. So we interact with all of the cloud accounting companies. Personally, we use QuickBooks Online within our business. It actually has the best e-invoicing experience. So it's actually really good and simple to use. Very happy with that. If you have a desktop version or if you're not an ERP system, just reach out to us. We're happy to tell you what the options are. There are options for all of them and it's always good to find out what they are. And you need to use an accredited service provider. So e-invoicing is actually regulated. With the ATO being involved, they're kind of like the umpires, just to make sure that everyone's playing together properly. And you need to find someone who's accredited, which is where I'll just step out a little bit and talk about Link 4. So we are approved by the ATO, we're accredited. We've got thousands of small businesses that are actively using Link 4 now. We sort of made QBO e-invoicing enabled in 2016, so we've been doing it since then. With the regulations that came in place in 2020, users are now on that. We're the leaders in the federal government. We're the most popular e-invoicing service used by federal government agencies. BOC Gas was the first enterprise as well on the networks that's able to send and receive e-invoices. Happy to have them as a customer. And we're often the first with software companies as well. So not just cloud accounting systems, but think of business systems like SimPro and those ones that customers use to put their invoices through. They can also be e-invoicing enabled. So use an accredited service provider. The other point I've got here is like set a target date. For me, this is probably the most important point on this slide. You need to set a date. We all talk around it about how wonderful e-invoicing is, and we don't want to be stung by scams. We want to be more efficient. But unless we set a date, we don't end up getting it done. Now, if you're using QuickBooks Online, you might set the date and go, by Friday afternoon, I'm going to be active on e-invoicing. Or by the end of this webinar, I want to be on e-invoicing. It's possible. If you're on an ERP system or your clients are using an ERP system, they might say, well, let's get up and running by the end of September or the end of October. Usually 2 to 4 weeks, those bigger systems can get enabled. And then inform your trading partners. So there's no point having e-invoicing in and go, no one's sending me e-invoices. Have you told them you're using it? By the way, we do offer a service that if you send us the ABNs of your suppliers or your customers, no identifying information, just the ABN, we can run that through the system and tell you who's already enabled and who's already doing e-invoicing. And so that way it makes it simple and easy. Feel free to shoot us an email and we're happy to do that for you. So that's the 4 points there of that I was looking to cover. Why do people do it? A lot of different reasons, but there's definite benefits for our economy. Who is doing it? Thousands of businesses, right from single person tradies up to the largest government agencies around. It's supported by the government, which is very important. And the most important aspect of being able to get enabled yourself is to set a target date. So hopefully you'll do that. So that's all from me. I look forward to handing back to Grant now and seeing if there's any questions.
Amazing. Thanks, Robin. Okay. So we do have some questions. Thanks very much, Robin. I'll invite Mark and Shaye back onto the call as well. Thank you for your presentations, and yeah, we'll jump into those questions. So we've covered, I think, a lot of ground today, and some of these questions we have, I think people may have already got some answers to, but there's a couple that I do want to kind of dive into and reiterate. So we had one from Nick on how does this process really help people to avoid falling victim to hackers and scams? And I think everyone's kind of touched on that. But Robin, I guess, with that day-to-day experience that you have, can you talk a little bit more about the security aspect and how e-invoicing really prevents people from falling victim to scams?
Yeah, so the aspect there that your accounting system has a security layer on it. The other accounting system that you're sending to or receiving from also has security. And then in between, you've got the e-invoicing access point, which has additional layers of security. And so the invoice will go through many different layers and actually come through the system very quickly. So it can be delivered within a matter of seconds or minutes. And there isn't an opportunity for anyone to intercept and take the invoice out and do anything to it. So it's a very safe system that runs through. It's actually even safer than having a physical invoice delivered to your mailbox, which can still be intercepted. But e-invoicing is very safe from that perspective.
Brilliant. Thanks, Robin. Shaye, I think you touched on this when you mentioned things like OCR payment solutions becoming obsolete eventually. But is e-invoicing going to replace things like HubDocs and Dex, where invoices are kind of stored and then processed into QBO?
Ultimately, the answer is yes, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. I think, like we've seen, a transition to cloud accounting over a period of time. We still have, lots of people that love their systems, whether it's, if it's not cloud or whatever they're using. I think over a period of time, we will see a transition of more e-invoicing happening and less of the DEX and the HubDocs and those OCR-based technologies. We need them both at the moment, though, because it's a transition. Providers like Link4 help us to send all of our invoices, regardless of whether the recipient is e-invoice enabled or not. So that's great, but not all of the providers do that. So there will be a period of time where we would still need both. I'm not trying to run my friends into the ground. I've got lots of friends at Dexter. I'm not saying that at all, but ultimately, just like our DVDs, I keep telling my husband that is redundant technology. Please get it out of my house. We have Netflix. A similar kind of thing will happen, but over a number of years. I'm sure the ATO's thought about this. Mark, do you have sort of like a futurist type outlook on this?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Shaye. It's going to actually make some penetration into the way invoices are flowing between the two parties. But when we talk to the large corporates in Australia, they've spent a lot of money with their portals and infrastructure they've got in place. So this is a complementary channel for them. So no longer will the small business have to go into their portal. They can actually do it from the comfort of their own software package and send off rather than going into the portal. So it does away with the need for that. But you don't forget, we also have some businesses who aren't yet digitized. They don't have the benefit of software. So those companies will still need to go into those portals perhaps to actually use that facility. But where we are with large corporates is they're running an additional channel for e-invoicing, but it gives them the efficiencies equal to what their portal does because they're still getting a safe, secure, accurate invoice delivered to them in a timely way. So you're right, it will take some time, depending how long they feel the benefits still exist there for their portal solutions, and that probably also depends on how many businesses aren't digitized and need that comfort of that facility.
I think that's a great point. And when we think about the way our firms run, I mean, ultimately not every one of our clients uses the same cloud platform. So they won't be they'll have a variety of invoicing delivery methods that they use for a long time and probably forever, because something new will come and then there'll be something new. So I guess on that flavour, it's still, such a great investment of time as bookkeepers, as accountants, to make sure we have a breadth of capability and skill set in these technologies so we can support all of their clients where they're at with their unique needs.
Thanks, Shaye. Mark, I think a bit of a follow-up question for that one. If a business registers for e-invoicing and for whatever reason they've got clients who don't want to use e-invoicing, they can continue to pay. It's not an opt-in and you're all-in situation, is it? You can still choose the way you want to pay.
Correct, yeah. So businesses will make that choice based upon their own circumstances. A bit like the question before is that you'll have alternative channels to use. So if a business chooses not to do e-invoicing because they don't have software, obviously there are options out there like free portals they can use for small business and large business end. But if they choose not to for some reason, yes, it means they just won't avail themselves of the benefits that were outlined before, but also means yourself, if you've got a supplier who chooses not to, then yes, you won't get the benefits yourself of them being connected to the same network.
Brilliant. And I guess another follow-up one off the back of that, this one's from Kay. Is there a list of businesses available who are using this so that they can actually start to see when it's going to become relevant for their clients?
Sure. So one of the things we recommend when people are getting ready to going invoicing is to contact or to look at your supply list. There is what we call the Pebble directory, which is basically the phone book, the yellow pages of all those people who are registered into the network. So you'll be able to work with your provider to identify those clients of yours who are already registered and tap into that time to time to actually increase the numbers. But certainly we recommend you contact your supply list to let them know that you are going invoicing. They might be thinking exactly the same way. It's just another benefit of doing that. So yeah, it is available. We just need to access that at the right time.
Yeah, and one of the good things I like about with QuickBooks is, so if you sign up for e-invoicing with QuickBooks, we will actually look up that directory for you and match that against your address book. So you'll then see within your system who is on e-invoicing. And because people are signing up every day, that information is changing. That will be up to date whenever you log in to look, say, in the Link4 dashboard to see who's already active.
Amazing. Thanks, Robin. Shaye, I might start with you on this one and then go to Robin. So it's really kind of coming back to that cost question. We know that everyone's struggling with inflation and all sorts at the moment. This is an additional cost for a small business. So how do you really kind of broach that conversation with them? So Shaye, I'll start with you and then we'll hand over to Robin.
Yeah, and I guess the headline of that is to really orient your conversation around value. And I know this is easier said than done. This is very much a sales tactic, but it's genuine, right? There is exponentially more value to be gained by every small business than the cost involved in the fees of investing in Link4 or whatever platform they choose to integrate with their cloud accounting platform. Something we've done in the past when I used to work in practice was having a think about and doing some quick maths around the cost of their debtor days. So sometimes that's a concept to help that we need to help our clients get their head around, but understanding the cost of the money being in someone else's bank account and not theirs, and the cost of chasing those debtors. And if we can demonstrate that that is going to be reduced by however many days or however many less lift, then you can quantify that time. Another little tip that I like to use with clients is asking them, well, what's your time worth to you? And often they'll say, $20 an hour, something ridiculous, and they completely undervalue themselves. And this is an opportunity for us to say, well, actually, if you're over there pushing those buttons and you're not out there serving customers or growing your business, then the opportunity cost of what you're doing doubles. So if it takes you an hour and you just said to me your time's worth $50, then that's actually $100 you've lost. So you're better off actually investing in something to assist you. So there's a bit of maths in there. I probably didn't explain it very well, so forgive me. I've been off the tools a little while in practice, but I guess from a headline level, orient around value and see if you can quantify it with some real life stuff for that particular client.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different reasons why people will actually do e-invoicing. And I think if a bookkeeper is starting to do it themselves, they will feel the benefits for what is good for them, and then they can mention that to others. And sometimes I'll always say, what about if you signed up and started doing it? How are you going to suffer? Like, what are the negatives that are going to happen to you? Versus if you're not doing it, what are those negatives, or what are the positives to gain? So rather than think about, well, one day we're going to do this and one day we'll be able to get those benefits or whatever. The good thing about e-invoicing is you can sign up and turn it on and off quite quickly. So you could sign up today, start trying it and going, this is perfect for me, let's stick with it. Or, doesn't suit my business, I'm going to switch that off. I just recommend signing up, starting it, and then enjoying those the benefits and experience yourself.
Brilliant. Thanks both. Just checking through our little questions list. We've probably got time for one more. I guess this is probably more of a general one. Aside from the efficiencies piece, how can you really encourage those clients to kind of move to e-invoicing aside from the cost argument?
Yeah, I think there's many different ways, and one thing we often hear is, I think e-invoicing is great, but I'm not going to do it until everyone else does. That's like everyone sort of sitting back waiting. It does work best when everyone is doing it, which is really good. One thing that we've actually built into our system is that you can, push a button and basically tell all of your customers and suppliers that e-invoicing is there and that you'd like them to interact with you. It's so good and beneficial once people start doing it, and we'll often hear, I don't know why I didn't start doing this earlier. Oh, it does save me time. Wow, this is so much simpler. To start enjoying and experiencing that is one thing, and then to hear someone tell you how good it is, that's another. So I just tell bookkeepers, start doing it, and then whoever you're talking to will understand your vibes and feeling of your experience, and that'll encourage them to do it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Robin. So we're at time. I do apologise if we didn't get to your question. We do have a couple in there that we just have run out of time on. I'd like to thank everyone for coming along today. Mark, Shaye, Robin, thanks so much for your time in preparing for today. You'll see all of them around the place at other E-Invoicing Week webinars and events across the country, across the internet over the next few days. I know they've got a very full schedule, so if you are keen to find out more about e-invoicing, definitely hit up the ATO's website, definitely hit up our website at intuit.quickbooks.com.au. Yeah, other than that, we will have a copy of the recording out today to you with some more information about Link4's solution and some other tips on getting started with e-invoicing. Thanks very much to everyone for joining us, and have a great afternoon.